Good evening. As you probably know by now, I'm Elizabeth Beetham and this is Dominic Beirne.
Everyone.
We are creating a healthy mind-body connection with you. This evening, we're going to be discussing how to have a successful relationship. So that's going to be interesting. I'm sure I'm going to get Dominic. This is a live show, so you can ask me questions at any time. And as you probably realise by now, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. London, we are going to be on YouTube. So please make a habit of joining us. We do welcome your questions, and obviously we're looking forward to having a large audience. We also run on Wednesday afternoon Zoom meetings. We call them Coffee and Chat, and that's 2 p.m. London time on Zoom. And if you're interested, all you've got to do is email us, and we'll send you the link so you can join us on that. So, the healthy relationship, Dominic, what's your first thoughts on that this evening?
Well, relationships are things that we all need in life. It's whether it be with a partner, in a family, or even in business, but certainly in relationship as far as partners are concerned, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever it may be, is that one of the things is when we first meet somebody and we are attracted to them, we are actually blind to their faults. That's where I believe the expression, and I might be wrong with this, but this is where I feel the expression "love is blind."
Yeah.
Because we're in that, at the beginning of a relationship, we're in what is known as the honeymoon period.
Yeah.
Okay? And that can last anything from 6 months to 2 years. As far as I'm aware of, and what I've read upon it anyway. And so when we're in that honeymoon period, we don't see or hear
any of the
faults. And if we do, we ignore them.
Yeah.
We kind of, they don't kind of, we don't allow them to eat away at us or annoy us in the same way as they do when the honeymoon period is over.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, it's all that wonderful time, he's totally in love, and hormones all over the place, and it's a great feeling, it's a wonderful feeling. But as I said, once that honeymoon period starts to drift off or begin to reduce, shall we say, that is when we start to see the cracks in the relationship, I call them. That's when we begin to see the faults in the other person.
Yeah.
That we begin to hear them more clearly. And that is quite often where relationships can start to break down. And that is where relationships, at that point, we really need to start to work on them.
Yeah.
So this is where the relationship becomes successful. At this point, when you are
building,
when you are now noticing the other person's faults and the things that you don't like them doing or saying, or a certain way they say things, they begin to eat away at you. This is where we have to start to take a step back and begin to what's the right word I'm looking for?
Adjust our behaviour.
Yes, adjust our behaviour, but also
tolerance.
Begin to recognize, and begin to work on it. Mm-hmm. That's when we need to begin to actually work. Now, I've got a few ideas that I do with people, and when I've worked with people for relationships in the past, some of the things I teach them to do, and I'll talk more in depth about that in a bit. But there's no reason why a relationship can't be successful, but it does require working on it. It requires working on it, and it requires being able to, as you were saying, Elizabeth, and I'm sure you're going into more detail, but it's all about communication.
Yeah.
You know,
and being tolerant.
So anyway,
being tolerant
pardon?
And a bit flexible as well.
Oh, yeah, being flexible, being being able to. I'm going to mention more about this later in this, but it's about the ability to compromise.
Yeah.
The ability to be able to give and take, giving and receiving, and that, you know, these are what very, very important about relationship. It can't be one-sided.
No.
And too many people do go into it, into relationships and wanting their own way all the time. But that's not what a relationship's about. A relationship's about
partnership. Dominic, would you say it's a partnership? And I think these days more and more people want to approach things as a partnership, a fair and equal partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are your thoughts and views on it?
And I think key to any relationship is communication. And that includes friendships, business partnerships, whatever. You've got to be able to really talk to each other. And part of communication within those relationships is actually having the ability to listen. And these are skills, fortunately, that we can learn. And I'm sure with a bit of maturity, we're a lot better at listening generally. I suppose it's a very big generalisation, but it is a skill we can listen, that we can learn. And learning to actually listen to your partner or friend or family member is really key, I think, to the success of that relationship. Giving someone your full attention, and that's what listening is actually giving them all your time and attention is really paramount, I think, to a good relationship. And the problem these days are there are so many distractions: mobile phone, the television, music. Some people like their music loud, and that's not good for trying to have a serious conversation. So get rid of all these things, and if you sense that there's something that needs to be aired, that your partner, friend, or needs something, you know, when you love someone, when you're in a relationship, you do have a sense of how they are, and you know, if they need to talk, then I think it's absolutely key to give them that time and that attention. Attention is the sun, and we all crave the sun to shine on. And I think giving someone and having someone's attention is a very powerful way of building a strong relationship. What do you think, Dominic?
Absolutely, and it kind of just reminded me, actually. I'm going about maybe 10 years ago, possibly 12 years ago. I was at my parent holiday home over in Ireland, and with my parents, and the television went off, right, and we couldn't get it fixed, right, so we had no TV. Of course, this is just before social media started to pick up and that, and so we didn't have social media on, or I didn't have it on my phone back then, and I remember, so there's nothing to do, right, you know, and so for the first time ever, the first time for a long time, I actually had real conversations with my mum and dad. And I learned so much that I didn't know.
Wow.
You know, about them, you know, but just talking and listening, and so like you were saying before, mobile phones and social media had really kind of broken down, in my opinion anyway, for a lot of people, the ability to communicate with each other properly. You so often see it when people are out, whether it be two friends out, family members, lovers, husbands, wives, whatever. One of them or both of them are forever on their phone, rather than actually talking and listening to each other, which I think is so sad.
It's sad. I think that's a good way of explaining that, because the other thing is, if you even at home and you're having a conversation with, maybe you've got friends around and the phone rings and you answer that phone, that's broken that stream of conversation. It's broken the moment of being close to someone, just sort of being involved with them. It's interrupted that.
And one of the things I do when I have friends and family over, or even my daughter over to stay with me, is when we're eating dinner or breakfast or lunch, we'll sit at the table, whether it's in the kitchen or in the dining room. One of the rules I made is no mobile phone.
It's a good idea.
Because meal time is a time for family. It's a time to communicate, and to eat and communicate. And so one of the golden rules I use in my home anyway is that when we eat, all mobile phones are switched off. And that's and by doing that, it's incredible how deep and heavily one can get into, very enjoyable, funny, even serious, but good conversations with each
other.
And it
helps you.
So you're right.
It helps you understand the other person, doesn't it? You build up a rapport, but you're learning the subtle messages of what that person needs. Yeah. And so
well, actually, you think about it. If you're having a conversation with somebody, and then suddenly they pick up their phone and start texting somebody, it's very bad manners in my world, anyway.
Yeah, mine too.
And what you're doing, you're showing that person a great deal of disrespect.
Yeah.
In my opinion, again, I've got to keep saying that. In my opinion, in my world.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah. So one of the things, I try to advise people to turn your phone off in the evening. Turn your phone off. Watch a movie together, watch TV together, but be together, talking together. Doing something together where you're not getting interrupted.
Yeah.
I do feel that social media and mobile phone have played a big part in breaking down or causing issues, shall I say, in relationship, whatever that relationship may be.
Well, I agree totally, and from a very sad experience I had, and mobile phones do create a lot of heartache for me in a relationship. So I couldn't agree more. And actually, having, and I think I'm going to do that. If I've got someone here, just put my phone off. People can leave a message, and then you have. And you're giving that person your full attention.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's all about, so like you were saying, it's about listening to what the other person's saying and giving the other person time to express themselves, and to just listen, and that because we all like to share our thoughts and feelings and we all want to jump in, but I feel if you're too busy wanting to jump in with what you want to say, you're not really listening.
No.
And that person picked up on that.
Absolutely.
You're not really listening to them. I know I said it's nice to be together watching a movie and that, but if you're in a conversation, turn the TV off. It's nothing, again, I can only talk about myself. It's nothing worse than if I'm with somebody and the TV's on and they're kind of half listening, looking at me, and then going back to the TV. They're not listening. You know, so it part of what makes a successful relationship is spending time together.
Yeah.
Without being without any interference from anywhere else.
Absolutely.
Without any distractions. That's what I'm looking for. And so that's why, you know, I would advise people to, you know, take time out from your phone, turn it off, spend time with you, actually talking with your partner, family member, whatever it may be, and share, you know, listen and share. You know, it's all about. And the other big thing, what makes a successful relationship is compromise. The ability to be able to compromise.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, with all relationship, no matter what type of relationship it is, it's required work. It's required working on, and we have to make compromise along with teamwork. Even just in couple, with your team.
Yeah.
Part of the teamwork is being able to compromise.
Absolutely.
Can't be all one-sided.
And the other absolute key, I think, a really important aspect of any relationship is trust.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. That's one of my high values.
That doesn't happen overnight, but you have to learn to trust the person. You've got to feel secure and safe in the relationship. And that goes for friends as well, because if you want to have a friend, you want to your inner feeling, you need to be able to listen. You're not going to discuss someone else. Because gossip is really the most destructive thing that we can all get involved in. It's not a thing to be involved in. And I think so having trust that you can express your feelings and feel safe and secure in that relationship, your feelings, your innermost feelings that you're sharing just between you and that person is really paramount to a successful relationship. Wouldn't you agree, Dominic?
Yeah, absolutely. And what goes with that also is honesty, being able to be honest.
Yes.
With you, you know, sometimes it's hard to be honest, you know, about certain things, but I think you can learn to be honest at the beginning of a relationship, even during that honeymoon period. You can learn to be honest at that point, then it will continue. If you start that relationship off and not being completely honest, and I don't mean you have to tell them everything about your past. I'm not on about that. I mean, your past, actually, you know, but certainly what's going on in the now and what you expect in the future or what we've got. Honesty is the key thing, you know. It's and some elements, some things about the past you may need to be honest about, you know, especially if there's a possibility it's going to come out later on in life.
Well, I think some people, we all tell white lies, and some people unfortunately get into the habit of lying to the extent that they actually believe the lies that they say. I have met people like that in my life. But I think honesty makes life far less complicated and will certainly improve any relationship. Because if you lie, you will be found out. And actually, I believe if you lie on a subconscious level, the other person is picking up that lie. They may, as if they're in the honeymoon period, they may not want to admit that they're having those feelings of doubt, but they will pick up on those lies without a shadow of doubt. And why do that when ultimately the truth will come out in the end, I believe, and you're destroying that trust and that chance of having a really open, successful relationship.
Yeah, because once you've been caught out lying once, or not being honest, shall I say, about something, it's very difficult to be able to trust that person again. Where even if what you have to tell that person they may not like to hear, if you've been honest, at least that person knows what he or she was totally honest with me about it. So later on in life, or further down the road in that relationship, if someone else cropped up and they're asking a question and they give you the answer, that person's more likely to say, well, it was honest, or she was honest with me before, so that I've got no reason to question why they're not being honest. That's now. Right. You know, so it did play a very, very big part in having a successful relationship.
And I think hand in hand with respect, because being honest is showing that you respect that other person. And I think respect is also key to having a successful relationship. Giving that other person the respect they deserve and showing that you respect them is really an important part of any successful relationship, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, totally agree with that, Elizabeth. And see, one of the things I teach people in my courses and in when I'm working with people privately is certainly coupled. It is learn to see things from the other person's perspective. In other words, step out of yourself and put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
And see it from their eyes and hear it from their ears. And it's incredible what you can learn about that person. You know, not only about their own thinking process, but about their own feelings. And you hear it coming back to you from their perspective, if that makes sense.
Because we're all unique, aren't we? Totally unique. And our life experiences are all very, very different. So what would probably not bother me at all, the other person might be very hurt by that, or feel threatened by that. So be able to step out of the experience and realise that maybe they had a very horrible childhood, maybe something happened to them that hurt them deeply, or maybe, you know, in their teenage years something happened that is still, you know, within them and it affects them. That's really powerful to be able. How do you do that? How can you learn to step out and look from the outside? How
you're breaking up a bit there, Elizabeth. You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a problem tonight, and sorry, apologies for this. There's definitely a problem with my mic tonight. Dominic, how can we learn to step out of a relationship and look inward, you know, at what's going on with the other person?
Well, it takes a bit of practice and that, but the one way you should do it is actually rehearse it without the other person there. In other words, if you go back on an argument you had earlier with somebody or a disagreement, whatever, is actually replay it again, right? Almost role play it on your own, where you kind of, first of all, you're yourself listening to it again, and then go through the whole thing again by stepping into, you imagine yourself in their body.
Wow.
And hearing it from you over there on the other side of the room or wherever you're sat, and hearing it from their perspective. And by kind of rehearsing this and practicing this, certainly with arguments that haven't gone quite right, you know, or when I say haven't gone quite right, you're still kind of quite confused by it all, is to relive that argument again but on your own from both perspectives, from yours and then from theirs, but actually stepping into their body, so to speak.
Because we all see the world from our own unique perspective, don't we?
Yeah.
Because of our past experiences. Yeah,
absolutely. But see, what we have to do is also learn from our past experiences.
Yeah.
You know, certainly when we get to middle age or whatever, most of us have had a few previous relationships before, but clearly haven't worked. And so it's going back and looking at that and taking the learning from your own faults, if you like. You know, what caused that relationship to break down? You know, what was it about you and your own behaviour that maybe caused that relationship to break down? And take the learning, because that's what life's about. It's a journey, and through that journey, we are going to make mistakes in life.
Yeah.
You know, we're not perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship.
No.
However, we can still take the learning. We take the learning from our previous mistakes that we've made in relationships.
Yeah.
We can then begin to correct ourselves and modify our own behaviour, and notice the triggers, what would trigger off a certain reaction in us that would have a knock-on effect that leads into an argument.
Yeah. Try not to take people for granted as well. I think, you know, I've fortunately had a very happy marriage. My husband died, and I realised after his death how much he did for me. It was incredible. You know, I take so much for granted, and I think it's a trap we often fall into in relationships is and it moves me on to my next point, is about providing emotional support, but also showing appreciation for what that other person does for you, and giving them compliments, praising them when they do something nice. You know, making them know that you're proud of them. I was very proud of my husband. He was a real intellect, and I always felt so proud of his achievements. And I know I did tell him that a lot. And I think that's really another key to having a successful relationship, is to compliment and be kind, bring your empathy to that relationship, and appreciate what the other person's bringing too.
Yeah, be more understanding, you know, of them. What you were saying earlier, Elizabeth, about what your definition of love was. What was it again?
Okay, so my definition of love is when you want the other person's happiness and you want to give them that happiness more than your own happiness. So that your consideration is always first for them and what they want and what their needs, their emotional needs, and also their physical needs. So giving of yourself completely, selflessly, is my definition of really loving someone.
Yeah, I get that.
And what about yours, Dominic?
Well, my definition is when you wake up in the morning, that person's on your mind in a good way, positive way. And when you close your eyes at night to sleep, that person's on your mind. That's my definition of love. Because if you are thinking about it in a positive way the moment you wake up, and you're thinking about it in a positive way the moment you close your eyes at night, then all the loving will come in between.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Dominic. I love that.
So yeah, that's my definition of love. So, you know, it's not rocket science, but relationships do take work.
They do.
You know, any relationship takes hard work. You know, do have to work. Anything that got potential of being very good need working on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's like setting up a business, and you know, for a business to be very successful, you have to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with relationship. For a relationship to be very successful, you and the other person or whoever's involved have to work at it.
Absolutely.
It's about giving and taking, giving and receiving.
Indeed.
You know, it's and that's my, you know, that's what I believe is what makes a successful relationship, and being able to listen, understand, and taking time out for each other.
Yeah, and have fun as well. You know, I think humour, when you first get together with someone, you always laugh a lot, and I think to retain that humour and create some happy memories, talk about those happy memories. In, you know, if you're having difficulties, it's good to just talk about all the good bits that you did, and it changes the mood. It detracts from the hassle and of life.
Yeah. And on a final note from me is, what people that know me well know that one of my favourite words is pretend. Because if you pretend something well enough, you can make it real, or make it feel real, kind of thing. And what I say, one of my advice is for making a relationship successful is go into that pretend mode that you just met again, or you're just going out on your first date again, and actually pretend that you're back in the early days again, where you're just starting off again, and so you dress up, you make yourself look nice as you would you just did at the beginning of a relationship, and go out on a date.
Why not? Yeah.
Go out on a date again. We're going out on a date. You know what I mean? Yeah. Relive the honeymoon period again.
Nice.
And by reliving it and pretending it well enough, can make it feel real.
Yeah.
Again, you pretend something well enough, it becomes real in your head. You know, and so all those good feelings can be there again.
Great.
So make it, go back into that pretend mode and make the relationship fun and exciting again.
Yeah.
You know, that's my. What about you? Any final points on there?
I just think to be kind to each other, have compassion for each other, and just give each other all the love you can, because we don't know what's around the corner. So if you really love someone, then show them you love them every day, and tell them you love them every day. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and treat that day as the last day of your life. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
We don't walk around the corner, so treat every day as if it's going to be your last day together. Yeah. You know what I mean? And make it special.
Good.
That's okay. Well, I think that comes to the conclusion of our chat on how to have better relationships. So I hope this has been helpful to some people.
Yeah, and, I hope it's really helped people. And next week we're going to be talking about forgiveness. So I think that sort of follows on, because for a good relationship, it's not always going to be perfect, and sometimes we have to forgive people when they let us down or say the wrong thing. So next week we'll be discussing that.
Okay, great. Another great conversation, Elizabeth.
Dominic.
I love our conversation together. So everybody watching, thank you for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed, click the subscribe button, because we will be putting videos up frequently now. We're not just doing this live stream every Tuesday. We'll also be making other videos that we'll be uploading.
I'm going to be doing some exercises.
Pardon?
I'm doing some exercises.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've got this relationship from someone called Damien. Should a good relationship also include physical, mental, spiritual dimension to it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Of course it does.
They all go hand in hand. Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
You.
Thanks for that question. Okay, well, so we'll be back again next week, 7:00 London time, live, and where we'll be talking about the power of forgiveness. The power of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Something that we all need to be able to do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important. So again, thank you everyone for joining in, and say goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Bye.